Do it.
Good afternoon, friends. Stephen Benoon here with Israeli News Live, and we have back with us Rowdy Meyer here on Israeli News Live. And Rowdy, share with everybody the name of your organization that you have there that is building communities for the madness that could possibly ensue one day.
Yeah, so I'm Tag, or they call me Tag. My name's Rowdy Meyer, but they call me Tag. We have a large community in Northeast Kansas. My YouTube channel is Life Done Free. We have a social media platform called freesteading.com. And, yeah, it was, as Stephen was saying, we a whole bunch of homesteads and we worked. I mean, I did it today. Spent my whole day today at another homestead, putting in water and solar. But so yeah, so it's Life Done Free is where you'll find us at.
That is excellent there. Rowdy, the thing, and I'll use the nickname Tag. I think that's pretty cool too. Reminds me of the childhood games played as kids, right? But
Yeah, yeah,
the thing is, you guys are prepping, making ready because obviously this world is not getting any friendlier. No matter how much, no matter what
agreed.
politician comes into office, and that's not just the United States,
Yep,
that's globally. Things are just really off the charts right now, and
yep,
it's getting worse daily. And the other day, when I was talking to you a little
yep.
bit, you had made the comment. I don't want to quote it exactly the right way there, but I asked you about World War III, and you seem to lean towards the idea that may become a very possible reality. Can you kind of share some thoughts on that?
Yes. Well, yeah, I mean, how do you get out of $36 trillion in debt? How do you get out of a food system designed to poison its people? How do you get out of a medical system that creates customers and not cures? How do you get out of those kinds of things? Well, it's going to take something big. How do you create this new world order or this great reset without, you can't bring up the bottom without bringing down the top. It's like Common Core in schools. They're not going to do it without something big. And the fact of the matter, I think you've got, I mean, just today I read an article, 9 new nations joined BRICS. So now 42% of the world's economy has now joined BRICS. So it's 58 to 42, and the lines are being drawn. It's no different than the Axis and the Allies from, World War II or whatever it is. We've created a divide amongst, between black and white, between husband and wife, between heterosexual, homosexual, whatever it is, between men and women. We've created a divide between the kids and their parents. What do they expect is going to happen? I mean, I don't really see an outcome beyond that. I think we have to head into that. I mean, let me back up. Let me say it a different way. What we're doing today is not sustainable.
And that's very obvious. I mean, even the mere fact of the debt that we're under here in this country, our debt is
Right.
just through the roof. I used to
Yeah.
think like this here when I think about our debt. Well, it's just like any bill collector, especially back when I was young. I remember when I was young and you didn't pay your debts, they come looking for you. They'd lock you up. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and so if we've got a situation where we're all these trillions of dollars in debt, somewhere along the way, those creditors are going to finally make their demand. No, you're going to pay up. And if not, it might be like in the old days of, well, it probably still is to some degree anyway, with the mafia and stuff. Somebody's going to start demanding that we pay up, and we don't have anything to pay up with.
Then there's the opposite of that argument too, which is not only do you have the debt collectors, they're going to say pay up, but you also have the fiat currency that's backed by nothing, and eventually it's going to lose its confidence. And guys, I'm going to tell you something. When we lose confidence in the dollar, when the world loses confidence, over. Game over, game set match. So you've got the debt collector coming to pay, and you've got the people using it saying it no longer has value. And that mixture together is quite the mixture. I mean, it's a recipe for disaster. So how do you get out of something like that?
Right, because right now, let's take
Make a war.
some of these third world countries, for example, around the globe that are still depending on the dollar. And let's say they can't get their goods from the United States. They're wanting to buy their goods from Russia or China or somebody that actually has those goods. And now they're saying, I'm sorry, we don't honor the dollar. That thing is totally worthless. And that's why I think you're seeing so many people bail ship and going over to the BRICS nations. But at the same time, I kind of wonder too, is BRICS, is it not just another new world order, or it's kind of like Democrat and Republican? When you vote, you only get two choices, and that's it. What do you think about that?
I agree 100%. And I think it's those countries are trading one slave master for another. The coercion and the bully tactics that America's used for all of these years and all of these countries will be used by Russia and China and Brazil and India and the other countries part of the BRICS nation. So it's really picking your poison and which one. But I think the fact of the matter is that 42% of the world economy, as I mentioned before, that's now belong to BRICS. It's probably 80% of the manufacturing capacity. And so you got to look at which one's more attractive. And I think from a logistical perspective, BRICS is probably more attractive than the dollar.
If they ever go with a currency for the BRICS nation that becomes a standard currency, like the dollar has been the main currency for the entire globe, that's definitely going to be game over at that point, because that's when and they've made that mock-up currency not too long ago. I saw
Yep.
somebody giving it to Putin, and he had the bill in his hand. So I feel like we're getting very close to the day where they're going to say this is now the new monetary system.
Yeah, and right now 42% of the economy would go that way. Right. And so, but that number is growing. If you've watched over the last year, and I know you have, because I know you watch it just like I watch it, but I know you have, it went from, 20% of at the world economy to 42 in just a couple of years. I mean, BRICS has been planned for a long time, but they're absolutely going to come out with their own currency, and they're probably going to back it by something. My guess would be some type of commodity, whether it's, oil, gold, lithium, whatever it is they do to give it some type of standing to, to attract people over. But that will be the death of America as we know it.
Right.
Our economy is 100% built on the idea of infinite growth. 100%. If it don't continue to grow, it will collapse. Fact.
Do you think then in that case they're rowdy, that what they're doing is that these wars that I mean, let's take for example with Russia and Ukraine.
Okay.
Um, that right now is, of course, it's like a quagmire over there.
Mhm.
But yet the United States, didn't matter if it's Biden or not, they are just dead set on continuing that war, knowing that they can't defeat Russia when it comes to this. And of course, Putin had kind of held back from the beginning. And I don't want to be a cheerleader for Putin either, because to me, he's just another puppet in the game. And I think that
That's right.
sometimes we kind of get caught up in that, because naturally, when you look at him from an outside, this guy can stand there. He'll talk to the press. He doesn't have to go get permission about what he's going to say. He'll just come right out and say it. So he really seems to be a very charismatic leader. He's almost like a modern day Kennedy, so to speak, when John F. Kennedy was
Yep.
president.
Yep.
He's so well liked around the world. But at the same time, the United Nations, or not United Nations, but NATO itself is trying to push this man into a corner, almost like instigating a global crisis. Do you think we're going to end up heading that way from this?
Oh, well, I mean, anybody out there, go Google U.S. military bases around Russia and U.S. military bases around China. Just go Google it. What you'll find out is they're completely surrounded. There's nowhere for them to retreat to. We said, hey, after World War II, we won't cross this line. We crossed the line. Then we said, okay, hey, in the 80s with Reagan and all that, we won't cross this line. And then we crossed this line. And now we're right up at their border. They have to fight. There's nowhere for them to go. And the fact of the matter is the New World Order, or whatever whatever we want to call it, the Great Reset, in my opinion, whatever it is, excludes places like China and Russia. And maybe this is nothing more than BRICS standing up and trying to fight the New World Order. I don't know. Right? I don't know. But if I was Russia, I'd be fighting right now. Because again, there's nowhere to go. What are they supposed to do? Retreat back beyond their borders? I mean,
You're right,
I think
because
there's
they control everything. And when I say they, NATO being that, the U.S. forces, and you're right, because I've looked at it
yes.
before, the maps, it's U.S. base, U.S. base, U.S. base, all the way around. The only place where Russia has actually, and China as well, have tried to put a footprint, and that's Africa. Which that would be a question I'd like to ask you about. What do you think this interest is so greatly for Africa?
Yeah, so Africa's full of natural resources, first of all. And so the world's been kind of picked through, and I think it's kind of the last frontier in a lot of ways. They have a lot of stuff there, and I think we're going to see a lot of wars in the future, probably fought on the African continent between, the proxy wars, not actual, not like U.S. versus Russia, but proxy wars. Much like what you see going on in the Ukraine. But I want to caution everybody. I hear report after we gave another $20 billion to the Ukraine. We gave another this. The fact of the matter is, very little of that money ever actually makes it to the Ukraine. That money goes to the United States military industrial complex. That's where it goes. And then they
Right.
build weapons of war. Those weapons of war then make it to the Ukraine. But I would argue it even another way. We're sending them that money that's going to the Ukraine is going back to the military industrial complex, which is then sending them F-16s, for example. But we're not building them F-16s. We're sending them our old F-16s, and we're building F-22s and F-35s for our future fights. That money is just, it's wash, rinse, repeat. And I hate to call it, whitewashing money, or, that's kind of what's going on. It's just another way. It was interesting. I was reading the National Defense Authorization Act, and there was like every single step that the omnibus bill. There's another great one. So the omnibus bill to keep the government from shutting down, and yet 5 of the 6 categories had military spending in it.
That's
It's
basically
just
what
the
we
military
built our
industrial.
economy on. Our economy is built on nothing but a
That's right.
war economy now. We sent out our
That's right.
manufacturing jobs to China back in the 90s, and so we've just become nothing but a military machine.
Yep. That's
And
right.
gee,
That's right.
Hattie. So what's your thought? What do you think is going to, if you were to say have a crystal ball, so to speak, and you were to try to say, hey, this is what I feel like we're going to end up going to in the future. I mean, right now everybody is excited. They say Trump got elected. This is what they wanted. I'm not personally so eager to jump on the bandwagon saying that Trump's going to save the day. Yes, he's already been in before, so he does know his way around and stuff. But it seems like to me,
Mhm.
normally when a president gets in, they gotta first take care of all those that they're indebted to for getting them into office.
Mhm.
And then maybe try to do something. But the question is what do you think Trump's really up to when he does get into office?
Um, Trump's a megalomaniac. And, it's hard to argue with that. Now, I'd much rather have Trump than Biden, in my personal opinion, because I can actually talk about things he did good for our country when he was in office. I can't mention a single good thing Biden's done. So, I mean, I guess to put it that way. But I think at the end of the day, I have hope that he will do good things. But his actions so far don't say that. And, you and I have spoken about this just a little bit, earlier when we were talking about it too, because it's funny to me how we've added 2 new government agencies under an administration that said they needed to shrink the size of government. Sounds a little hypocritical to me, right? Now, in fairness, he's not in office yet, and maybe he's going to walk in the front door, as you mentioned earlier, with a big hammer and just crack down, and that will all be good, which I would be 100% for. I'm super willing to be inconvenienced at the cost of it, at the reward of a smaller government. But I don't think that's what it is. I don't see how Marco Rubio as Secretary of State is anything more than a rhino that's been there for 20 years or whatever. I don't see how any of this is going to be any different. It's just a different taste of the same thing. I hope I'm proven wrong, and I'll make you a deal. I'll come on your show and tell everybody in the world I was wrong. But I don't think it's going to be much difference. Might be a little slower, might be, but I just don't see how there's much of a difference. And I'm actually kind of disappointed in a lot of the stuff. The FISA documents. What is the lady from Hawaii, the new intelligence director? Her name escapes me. Um, what is her name?
Oh,
Anyway, she was opposed. You know what I'm talking about?
you,
She's got a white stripe in her hair.
yeah, yeah.
Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard.
Oh, Tulsi, yes. It
Yeah.
dawned on me right when you said Hawaii, but I was trying
Yeah.
to pull the
Tulsi
name
Gabbard.
out too.
Yeah, so she came in, prior to her hearings and all that, talking about how she opposed the FISA documents, which allows, spying kind of through a back door on American citizens, and then in the dealings going on behind now, she supports it. So
It's
It's the same
sad
thing.
when people that have good values, they compromise their values just to be able to
Yeah,
get a seat at the table. And then
yeah,
what does that tell you though? It tells you, uh, Rowdy, that they are going to, they're just there to obey whatever the puppet master says. And
yeah.
in that case,
Yes.
there, the puppet master is really not Trump either. That's something that
No.
I'm noticing more and more. If I've ever seen a time where it is obvious that even presidents have masters behind them, is as I've watched Trump changing his stance.
Mhm.
He'll be tough in certain issues, but it's
Mhm.
only issues that are good for the puppet master.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he's really begun to just let this go, let that go, whatever. So that troubles me. I mean, I wish we had a leader in this nation that had the conviction to say, look, I believe this, I believe that. You elected me to be the president. You may not feel very good, but we're going to do this and we're going to do that.
Yeah. I'm going to give Trump the benefit of the doubt because he's not in office yet, and I hope he changes things. But I found it. Just today. Bill Gates came out and said that Trump was interested in expanding the vaccine stuff and the protocols for HIV and some of these other things. And he had a great conversation. And I find it fascinating that now Mark Zuckerberg is good friends with Elon Musk. And, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, but I am very skeptical.
And it's moves like that that make you feel that way. What are your
Yes.
thoughts about the Middle East? As a whole, not necessarily just looking at the Gaza situation. I know we talked a little bit about the hostage situation there, but even as a whole, whether it be Iran, we have Syria, now Bashar al-Assad's been removed from power. And I really felt that was very strange at how easy they just did that. It's almost like he
It came
knew,
quick.
yeah, he knew it was coming.
Yeah. Yeah, I think much of the Middle East is just proxies for the other countries. You've got, Iran and Russia and Saudi Arabia and America, but they're kind of turning a little bit, right? They're wanting to get into BRICS now too. And I mean, I think at the end of the day, there comes a point where we have to take care of America. And, you know, if the Sunnis don't like the Shiites or whatever, I mean, why is that our problem?
I
I mean,
couldn't agree
I
more.
don't think we cannot, we can't be the police of the world. I mean, it's time to,
Exactly.
but you look at any civilization, any of them. You're talking about the Egyptian Empire, the Roman Empire, any of them. One of the things that happened towards the end of their civilization is their supply lines, their military presence got bigger and bigger and bigger and more spread out, and they couldn't keep up the supply lines behind it. They got completely overreached. And again, this is true for the Roman Empire, the Egyptian Empire. But you know what else is true for all of them? Is that right there towards the end, the laws became absurd. And
And we're
so I
fixing to
find
see that as well.
it, yeah. And here we are putting litter boxes in classrooms.
Oh my goodness. Jeez.
I mean, so I'm telling you, Stephen, at the end of the day, I don't know what the future holds, but I know that it's crazy. But this is what I know for sure. I know that the safety and security of my family is my responsibility. I know that the security and safety of my community is also my responsibility. I am no longer going to live a life where I have to be dependent on the system and dependent and be a servitude, be a slave to the system in order to participate in it. This is why I went off grid. This is why we have a community. This is why we grow our own food. This is why, I've graduated to storing, from storing food in my pantry to storing it on the hoof. Now I store my energy in a tree and I collect it with a solar panel. And I do these things because I no longer think it's safe to be so dependent on the system. I mean, you ask a general and you say, hey, how many fronts you want to fight a battle on? He'll say one. Why? Because your supply lines, right? Because you don't want to be trying to fight on 2 and 3 and 4 fronts. So my goal in life is to remove every piece of stroke that there is to the system. I don't want them to be able to hang over any of it over my head. I don't want them to be able to say, well, here's the thing, Tag. You have outused your energy credit, so you don't get electricity this month. Something so simple as that. Or you're not allowed to do this, or you're not allowed to do this. So I'm just going to do it for myself and let the chips fall where they fall. and I'll be as ready as I can be. And I'm not going to get distracted by the Trump administration. I can assure you that.
That is an excellent, excellent way to put it there, Rowdy. And let me ask you this, for people that are listening, that maybe they're wanting to get involved with a community or even start one, I know you have always offered to be able to be a help for that. Uh, can you share again the website that you guys have on this and
Yeah.
so people can learn more about it?
Yeah. So, first thing I'll tell you personally to anybody that's listening out there, if you go on my YouTube channel, Life Done Free, my email address is on there. I, on average, probably in a week, I probably do two consultations online. I do it for free. I don't charge for it, none of that. I don't care about any of that. And what I'm doing is I'm talking to people about either A, they want to figure out how to get into our community, or B, most of the time it's how do we begin? How do we start? How do we get that first thing started? And so we just talk about different ways to find other people, different ways to, help build that community. But just as importantly, what are the most important building blocks? And let me tell you what I mean by that, because this is super, super, super important. The idea of 20 people ganging up on a piece of land and creating a HOA is flawed because we claim to want freedom and then we want to push rules upon everybody else. The truth is, you want a community to run good, focus on individual sovereignty, collective security, right? Focus on those things. Here in our community, just as an example, we have 100% sovereignty. I own my own land. I do what I want. We have no rules. Don't be a jerk. That's our rule. It's our only rule. And so there's these little building blocks that you can build that are attractive. I've had people move from all over the country here to where we live to be part of what we do here. So what I would encourage you to do, if you're interested in community, you're interested in building community, go on my YouTube channel, find my email, send me an email, we'll set up a video call and we'll talk through it. I'd love to network with communities all over the country because, man, imagine if I could truck in oranges from Florida and we could send them apples.
Exactly.
I would love that.
Exactly.
I would love that. We grow the best apples in the world right here. But I can't grow an orange, just as an example. So if we want to take the power back, what we have to create is those parallel economies, those parallel systems. If we do that, we can make a big dent. Guys, we don't have to fight them. We have to ignore them. That's it.
That's a very good point that you just made there, because that's basically what Jesus said about the devil when he's hounding you. When he says to, what was that word that's actually used there? Um, resist the devil. I always told people, I said, what is resisting? It's just flat out ignoring him,
Ignore them. Yeah, but
and that's what we need to be able to do, to
we
where
do.
people can live in peace amongst.
But you've got to put yourself in a position to ignore them. If I have to go ask them permission for everything, I can't ignore them.
Wow.
If I'm 100% dependent on Walmart, I can't ignore them. If I'm 100% dependent on the electric company, I can't ignore them. If I have to get on my knees and grovel for my next 100 gallons of water, I can't ignore them. Right? We have to put ourselves in a position, right, to lead the way to freedom. And we
Yes.
can do that.
And me and Yana have visited out there with you guys. And by the way, she said to make sure to tell you hello as well.
Tell her hello.
And but you have an amazing place, and and when you go there, one thing I can tell you, when you go to Roddy's place there, he's got a nice home. He doesn't pump. There's no electric wires coming in from the state. uh, you know, water, everything is totally self-sufficient.
Yep.
And of course, he does use EMP shields on every
Of
one of
course.
his panels and stuff. So that's something you definitely want to consider as well. But it is so nice to be able to see that, and then you begin to meet people that are part of the community there. You got, I assume Matthew still is out there as well.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And each one is doing something different. And that's what I find is so amazing. And I remember we were there. I think there was another person coming into the community at the time while we were actually there. So, and then too, like you said earlier today, you told me that you were out putting together a solar panel system and stuff on a person's house. You guys come together and help one another.
Yeah, we've done some cool things. I mean, I last year we built a guy a house. 50 people showed up on a weekend. All the material was there. By the end of the weekend, the house was standing. Now he went through and did all the electrical and the plumbing himself and the drywall, but we stood the house. The place that I was at today, I have a very good friend of mine who just had quadruple bypass heart surgery. Didn't know he was going to have to go through it. Went to the doctor. Some stuff was blocked. That it was either that or die. And but the problem is they were at a horrible phase in their building process. Then the winter comes. Now we've got frozen water. We've got all kinds of problems. And so the community's gone out there a few times over these last few weeks. But today, what I did is we went out there and framed in their mudroom, insulated their mudroom, hooked up their solar system, got their water to stop freezing, put a door on, just so we could continue to get through. But yeah, I spent my whole day there today. And what's so amazing about it is nobody ever expects anything from it. There's no money exchanged. It's not how it works. Feed us. I mean, that's kind of the rule, right? If we come to your house, you got to feed us. Other than that, that's it. And it's absolutely magical. And I get people tell me all the time, how do you get people to show up? Well, it's one of those weird things. Like it kind of works like a social credit score, I guess, in a little bit. In that, I feel obligated to be there because I made that promise. And if I show up at everybody, when everybody needs help on their homesteads and I show up, guess what happens when I need help?
They're going to show up at your place.
That's right. And if when people need help, I don't show up, guess what's going to happen?
That's right.
It's really easy how it works, but we've got big capacity and big skill sets. And, like we installed the solar system today in a day. They've got power. When I left out there today, it was almost dark. They were pulling in 1,600 watts and they were on their way. And so now that girl, before today, was going out in this freezing cold weather at a 65-year-old lady by herself, starting a generator, letting it warm up, hooking it up to the well, pumping water, carrying buckets so that she could water her animals and get water for herself. Tonight, she's
Oh
going to
my
flip a
gosh.
switch. All she has to do tonight is flip a switch.
That is so nice.
So,
Well,
but it takes work. You
that's
can't, I always tell people this, Stephen, you can have freedom or you can have safety, but you can't have both.
that's exactly right.
You have to pick one.
Mm, I like that. Rowdy, thank you so much for coming
Of
on
course.
today and sharing some of these things with us as well. And I know that Karen and Dwayne, they'll probably be listening. When I post this up tomorrow, or actually I'll post this one tonight. And Karen and Dwayne, listen, I'll get Rowdy to give you one more time his contact information. Actually, the website, I'll get you in touch with him so you can get his phone number and stuff. But they also have a community that they've been working on, and I forget the guy's name that started it. There's some guy that kind of got it going and everything.
Yeah.
Very much like yourself. He's just wanting, we just want to connect and help one another so we can survive whatever may be coming. And then, of course, I remember one thing you said to me, and I'll say this here at this end of this here. I asked you, I said, what do you think we're going to be dealing with? We got into this issue about World War III. I said, well, what about Planet X? And you said, well, forget it. That's going to wipe out everything.
Yeah. If there isn't much you can prepare for that. Um,
Yeah,
so I don't spend any time worrying about the things I can't control, but I spend all my time worrying about what I can control. And what I can control is my own sovereignty. What I can control is my own actions. I can control what kind of man I am. I can control what kind of husband I am, what kind of father I am. I can control what kind of friend I am. Those are the things I'm going to spend my time on because the fact is, I don't know what the truth is in today's world. How does anybody know?
isn't that right? That's so true. Very true.
You know? So I'm just going to do that. Hey, I wanted to mention one thing before we go. You mentioned EMP Shield real quick. I've been getting a few emails about the wildfires in California coming out of smart meters. And I don't know, I'm going to do a little bit of investigating into this, but if what's happening is the voltage spikes in the smart meters are heating up the lithium batteries, which are causing fires, an EMP shield would be a great solution to that. Now,
Excellent.
if it's
Excellent.
something else, let's say it's like what happened in Israel, they put those little explosives in pagers. I can't help, it's not going to help with that.
No.
But if it's literally a voltage issue, it would absolutely help. 100% help with that.
That is amazing. All right. And okay, so you listen, you guys know the drill. EMPshield.com, or you can go to IsraeliNewsLive.com. It's right there, links right there at the right side of the page. INL 50, you get to save
Yep.
$50. And I'm sure we're going to be coming season for a sale again soon, but I
Oh
wouldn't wait,
yeah.
really. I wouldn't wait. You guys are always
No.
doing wonderful sales there, but
Yeah. I
that's
have
not
8 of them
something
on my
to wait.
house. I have
8 of
8 of
them?
them on my house. Yeah.
See there?
Yeah, I have 8 of them. But because I have one on the house, I have 5 charge controllers that all get one on my solar system. I got one on my well and I got one on my generator because they all need protected. I don't mess around with
Exactly.
stuff like that.
Exactly.
So,
And just like when we did the little short film there, I guess about 20-minute film there, one of the things we talked about in there, having multiple EMP shields is not just so that you go buy a bunch of EMP shields. There's reasons for each and every
oh
one.
yes. Yeah,
So
if I protected my house, that's great for the AC side. But I get a big lightning bolt that hits close and it blows my inverters. Man, I got $53,000 in solar equipment sitting in that room. I can protect that from I don't forget EMP. I can protect it from a lightning bolt for 400 bucks. I'm in.
that's exactly right. It's a
I mean,
very economical price
yes,
to be able to do it. And I
yes,
always say too about the vehicle, I live, half hour to a gas station to begin with. Anything else is an hour away. Last thing I want to know is that my wife is stuck somewhere because of something, God forbid they did have an EMP strike. And that's a very real possibility the way things are going right now. And to think that your vehicle could be protected when everybody else is walking home. Uh, if you live an hour and a half from town, imagine how long it takes to walk that distance.
ooh, yeah. And what's the weather like?
That would be doubly bad. And many people,
Yeah,
especially like we're going to drop down close to zero this week. I
yep,
think on Tuesday, you don't want to break down in your vehicle just because of something like that. So, yeah, it's definitely worth it. Like you said, lightning strike, smart meter, that was an amazing one there. So, Bill,
yeah,
if you're listening out there in LA, out there, brother, if you didn't get an
yep.
EMP shield, you better go ahead and get one. So,
Yeah. I'm going to do a lot of investigating into this point because
okay.
I'm getting more and more information on it. I don't know what's caused it. I'm not proclaiming I know. I'm just telling you I'm getting some feedback that
Okay.
played a role in it. So I'm going to do a bunch of investigating, but I just figured I'd mention that for your audience.
That does, and I had Deborah Tavares on yesterday, and she's the big whistleblower when it comes to the smart meters. She's been the advocate against smart meters from the day they ever came out. So, but a
Yep.
lot of people they have them anyway. They can't, they bought their house; it was already there, or as you said, they're in a community, and the community, not your kind of community, but the HOA. There we go. The HOA says what you
Correct.
got to have on your house. So, what a mess.
Folks, you cannot be free if you have to ask permission for everything. You
That's
can't
right.
be.
I was,
So,
listen, Tag, I was in a neighborhood in South Florida, and the funniest thing that ever happened, I got so tired because I'd never dealt with a community, not a community, but a homeowners association like that before. I was used to always living in the country. And they kept giving me a hard time. So I stopped at the guard gate coming in and I said, oh, by the way, guys, I needed to know. I bought Charmin today. I don't know if that's legal to have in our community or not. Is that okay? Or do I have to switch back to Charmin? Oh,
it's so crazy to me how we think we can be free and then push our opinions, our rules upon other people. Freedom only works if it works for everybody.
that's right. That
That's
is
the way freedom is. Freedom is the ability to live your life according to your terms. If that means you want to live in a skyscraper in New York, I support you, brother. Knock yourself out. If you can live life according to your terms, but I'm not going to push my beliefs. I'm not going to push rules on. I'm just not going to do it. That's not what freedom is.
wow, amazing. Rowdy, Tag, God bless you, my brother. Again, your website one last time.
Yep. The YouTube channel is Life Done Free. The website's Life Done Free. You can find me on Twitter or X. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on YouTube. My email addresses are out there, and I would welcome a conversation if someone wants to work on getting freer.
Sounds great. God bless you, my brother.
Yeah, we'll see you. Thank you, bud.